We're going to make a simple pair of pajama pants that have an elastic waist in them. So we're going to learn how to put in an elastic waist and how to sew a basic pair of pants through that. When you're sewing pants, one of the things that there is the crotch seam or the inseam with that. There are two methods that you can sew in a crotch seam, and I will demonstrate both of those methods as we sew through our pants. To make the pajama pants, you're going to need your pajama pants pattern. You're going to need your fabric with the amount of fabric according to what your pattern envelope told you to buy for your size. You're going to need coordinating thread to sew. You're going to need elastic. You're going to need your pins, your scissors, and your tape measure for cutting out your pattern pieces. And you're going to need a safety pin for inserting your elastic into your pajama pants. So for our pajama pants, to get our pattern piece ready, we need to look at our pattern envelope. On the back of your pattern envelope, you should have diagrams of all of the different options for what you can make, what is included in the pattern. They should have a letter by them that tells which one they are. So we are going to make pajama pants in this pattern. You can actually make long pants, which is view C, or you can make short pants, which is view D. So then once you decide which view you're making, so what you're actually making, then you're going to move over to the next section on your pattern envelope to tell you what you need to purchase for your pattern. So you need to decide what size you're making, and this one is actually boys and men's. So you do it based on your hip measurement for the pajama pants. Now, the thing to remember is that when you are doing patterns, they're not the same size as many times when you are purchasing clothes in the store, especially for women's clothing. So make sure you go off of your body measurements for what size you're actually going to need to make. So I'm going to make a men's size medium pajama pant, which means it's going to fit a hip 39 to 41 inches. Okay, so then with that, I look and see how much fabric I'm going to need. I am going to make view C, the long pants, and fabric comes in either 45-inch wide or 60-inch wide fabric. My fabric is 45 inches wide, so 45 inches wide for a size medium. I am going to need 2 5/8 inches of fabric to make my pajama pants. Okay. It also says that for the pajama pants, view C or D, we're going to need elastic. So I've purchased elastic for that as well. Once you've done that, then you're ready to actually take your pieces out of your pattern envelope and begin to look at that. So when we open up our pattern, we're going to have two things that are in the pattern envelope. So the first thing we're going to have is what we call our guide sheets, which are going to give us the instructions for actually sewing the garment, and we're going to have our pattern pieces. Okay. So first we're going to look at the guide sheet. So the guide sheet will tell us exactly what is in our pattern envelope with that. So first it's going to again show you the different garments that you can make with the letters that correspond to that garment. The next thing it's going to show us is the actual pattern pieces that are included in our envelope. So they're going to draw out the pattern pieces in the shape that they are. They're also going to put the number for those pattern pieces. And then below there should be a key that tells you what that is. So for number 1 in this pattern envelope, it is the front for view A and view B. So view A and view B are the shirt, and they both use the same front. So you can look here and see what pattern pieces you're going to need for that. Okay. Then there are some general pattern directions that go with that. So some basics about reading a pattern. So there are the different symbols and what that means. So grain line versus a place on the fold grain line, center, front and back, notches, dots. A solid black line is your cutting line. 2 solid black lines together are for lengthening and shortening the pattern for doing pattern adjustments. Then it shows you a little bit on how to lengthen or shorten the pattern if you need to do that. And then some things as far as before cutting and after cutting, as far as marking marks from the pattern pieces onto your fabric. If we flip that over, then we get the next thing, which is what we call our cutting layouts or our markers. So what this section does is it tells us exactly what pattern pieces we need and how to lay them out on the fabric. Okay, so we are going to make view C, which is the long pants. Okay, so according to that, then it says that I need to use pieces 5 and 6. So it's telling me what pattern pieces I'm going to need to use. And it's telling me that this layout right here, this image right here, which is this is my fabric, the way it's folded. So I have one fold. The selvages are folded together, okay, or matching in a fold. This will work for fabric that is 44 to 45 inches wide. And it says it will work if it has a nap. So with the nap or without a nap for size small. Okay, so a nap with a fabric is if you have a specific direction that the fabric has to go with. So you have texture in your fabric, or you have a print or a design in your fabric to where we need to ensure that our pattern pieces are all cut in the same direction so that they match when we begin to sew them together. Okay, if we continue on up, we still have that we're looking at view C, but this is for 45-inch fabric in small or medium or large. And so we're going to lay it out like this. Or if you have fabric that is 58 to 60 inches wide, then we can lay it out like this. Okay. So my fabric is 45 inches wide. I'm making a size medium. So this is what I'm going to use as my guide for laying out my fabric. So I'm going to fold my fabric in half, matching the selvages. So laying the selvages on next to each other, I'm going to place my fabric wrong side together, and I'll have one fold. And then as I lay out my fabric, my pieces are slightly going to overlap at the bottom of 5 and the top of 6 in the width of the fabric. If I turn the guide sheet over, it gives me the actual sewing directions for putting the garments together. So it starts with top A and B and goes through that, but that's not the one that we're making. So I'm going to go to the second sheet of the guide sheets, and actually I will find the directions for pants C or shorts D. So that is where I'm going to start when we begin to sew, is for that garment. So right here it tells me the first step that I'm going to do, and it gives me a illustration diagram of what the pattern pieces should look like as I am doing each step. So as we are sewing our pajama pants together, we will follow through the guide sheet directions for each of those steps of putting those pants together. The second part of what is in our pattern envelope are our actual pattern pieces. So you're going to find them folded up together. So we're going to unfold our pattern pieces. And we'll begin to look for the pieces that we need. So we need pattern pieces 5 and 6 to actually make the pajama pants. So here's pattern piece number 6. So what I'm going to do is I will rough cut out around that pattern piece to separate it from the rest of the pattern pieces. Now with pattern pieces, most pattern pieces and envelopes come with multiple sizes that you can make. So they don't create a different pattern piece for each size. Rather, they lay the sizes over top of each other. So you have to be very careful as you are cutting to make sure you're cutting the correct size that you need. So there's a small, medium, large, and extra large. So since I'm making medium, I'm going to follow the cutting line for the medium. That's also what's happening on the side seam as well. So I have small, medium, large, and extra large. So I'm going to be cutting along the second line, which is the size medium. Now with the notches, they have the notches to the inside of the cutting lines. But when we cut those, we're actually going to cut them as triangles to the outside of our cutting lines. Okay, so I need to cut out piece number 5 and number 6 from the pattern. So I'm just going to very carefully, I'm going to rough cut around that. And then next to that is my other pattern piece that I need. So I'll go ahead and cut that one as well. So there's one piece that I have rough cut. Okay, so now I have my pattern pieces that are rough cut out. So I have pattern piece number 6, and I have pattern piece number 5. Okay. Now on these pattern pieces, there is a line here that kind of jets out. This is your cutting line if you were to make the shorts versus the pants. So if you decide to make shorts, you would cut along these cutting lines and you would discard the rest of the pant leg.